This is Metro Week. Our top story, Tucson's new streetcar begins carrying passengers. We'll detail the project's history, then we'll review the week's news with our Journalists Roundtable.
There are some signs that businesses do think this is a good thing, and they are optimistic about what the future brings.
You can sort of see the language being parsed there. I mean, we're going to meet or exceed these goals.
Hi, I'm Andrea Kelly. This week's story, the Tucson streetcar is up and running. First, we'll take a look at the history.
The historic Old Pueblo trolley ran on University Boulevard and 4th Avenue for decades. Then came the idea of a modern streetcar, an effort that began in the early 2000s. Artist Steve Farley, now a state senator, was behind it. After a few unsuccessful attempts to get voters to approve a new form of transit, he worked with former Tucson Mayor Bob Walkup to create a different strategy. They added the streetcar to a much bigger effort to improve transportation in the entire Tucson metro area.
That started the RTA process, a bunch of people on different sides talking to each other. Bob Walkup, who used to be against the streetcar, came right on board and said it was the best thing ever, and he's been the guy who's made this thing happen in the next phase.
I said, Steve, we need to get together. We need a regional.
Yeah.
And we need a connection.
That's right.
Well, I think both of us.
We all ultimately came to the same place, and that's what's so great about it. Because it was better off for us to do this together as a region with all the things together comprehensively than it was for any of us to go alone.
You and I lost two very important initiatives with the public back to back, right?
And we learned our lessons.
Voters approved the Regional Transportation Plan and a sales tax to pay for the projects in 2006. While a handful of major road projects will get more RTA money than the streetcar, it is one of the major elements of the plan. It runs between University of Arizona Medical Center on the north end to the Mercado District on the west side of Interstate 10 downtown. Now that it's open to the public, here's how it works. The streetcars are scheduled to come by each of the 23 stops about every 10 minutes during the weekdays, with longer intervals on evenings and weekends. The streetcar will go until 2 a.m., Thursday through Sunday nights when the restaurants and bars on University Boulevard and on North 4th Avenue are busy. Ticket machines at the streetcar stops take exact cash or Visa and MasterCards. They dispense a day pass, which costs $4 and allows unlimited rides 24 hours from purchase. Other tickets, such as the $1.50 one-way, $3 round trip, or monthly passes, are available online or at the three main transit centers. For the streetcar's inaugural weekend, all rides through the end of the day Sunday are free.
We're here at the maintenance facility for the streetcars themselves with Shelley Ginn, project manager of the Modern Streetcar Project. Thanks for joining us. This project was years in the making, and if I remember correctly, the original start date for operations was going to be November 11th of 2011. We're 2.5 years past that. Why the delay in opening?
Well, at that point, we had made it through getting our funding sources by 2010, going into design and then preparing to go into construction in the end of 2011, going out to bid for construction. So by that point, we were able to actually set a really firm date on when we thought we would be able to go into operations. That said, we did have an October 2013 date, which we thought we would be opening. However, the streetcars manufacturing took a little bit longer than originally estimated due to the fact that they're just a new manufacturer and their timing estimates were a little bit off on the procedures that they have to go through to manufacture the vehicles. So that led us to the July 2014 date.
The cost of this project is about the same as the I-10 widening that we saw a few years ago, about $200 million. Why is it so expensive?
So there's a lot of, when you have a startup system, there's a lot of different components to it. This project includes 8 vehicles, 8 modern streetcars. It also has this maintenance and storage facility. It has 4 miles of track and overhead wire, and it also had a lot of utility work that was done for the construction as well. On top of that, we had to hire a lot of our experts because we just didn't have that expertise here in the city of Tucson.
How much is the operating cost going to be for the future years, and what are the funding sources for that?
So it's approximately $4 million a year to operate the system. We do get some funding from the Regional Transportation Authority as part of their project funding that they had as part of the voter-approved project that was included in the May 2006 project list. We also will be collecting revenues out of our fare collection, and then we'll have coordination with the University of Arizona on trying to promote to their students, faculty, and staff ridership to try to beef up that fare collection. And then finally, the general fund will cover whatever gap there is.
You know, in the beginning of this project, we heard some unhappiness from business owners, and especially during construction. Describe what the city has done to get them on board. This weekend, there's a whole bunch of events that businesses are supporting revolving around the streetcar.
Well, one of the focuses that we took was utilizing the Regional Transportation Authority's Business Assistance Program. We started working with businesses way before we went into construction. So from a time perspective, it was a couple of years before construction began that we started coordinating with businesses, trying to prepare them for the construction period and then get them through to where we were finally open and be able to run the system. We also have worked really closely with them as we developed this project, so a lot of them had a chance to weigh in on what they needed, what they'd like to see as part of the design on the system. So they've been a partner with us pretty much the entire project.
Describe the process of taking a ride on the streetcar from when someone walks up onto one of the streetcar stops.
Okay, so that's our How to Ride program basically. So a little bit different than on a bus. On a bus you would walk up to the driver and you would show your fare media and they would check it and then you would move on to be able to seat. On a streetcar we actually have wide doors on the side where you would board, so you have to purchase your fare media before you actually get on the vehicle. We have ticket vending machines located at every single stop. At those ticket vending machines you can purchase a one-day pass for $4 and you can use exact change or a credit card. And if you choose to purchase a different type of fare media, you can do that at any outlet that sells SunTran passes. If you already have a pass, a SunGo pass, that's actually good on the streetcar as well. So these are a seamless system where if you have a pass that's for a bus, it's good for a streetcar. If you happen to buy that one-day pass at a ticket vending machine, it's good on the streetcar and on a SunTran bus. You can use any fare media, that's the stored value, the 30-day, one-day passes that are available at all of the SunTran outlets. You would board the vehicle and you would validate it, which means you tap it on one of the 4 validators on the vehicle, conveniently located near the doors, and it would let you know if it's validating it. And then for our purposes, this is a proof of purchase system. We would have ticket agents who would be roaming randomly and checking people's tickets to make sure that they purchased their tickets and that they validated their tickets. If they haven't, right now we're going to focus on education because this is so new to everybody, but eventually we will be citing people if they do evade paying their fare.
What's the cost of a one-way fare?
A one-way fare is $1.50, and that's something that you'd have to have on a SunGo card before you would board the card. So that's not available at the ticket vending machines, only at a SunTran outlet.
So at the ticket vending machines, you can get the $4 day pass?
Yes. Yeah, that's the only thing that's available at the ticket vending machines. We just kept it very simple.
The city has been talking about reducing buses that parallel routes with the streetcar so there's not overlap. Does that also impact the ease of transferring between the two systems?
Well, right now we're actually not going to do any type of shifting or eliminating of bus systems until we have evaluated how people are riding on the SunLink system. We want to do about 6 months to a year evaluation before we actually move forward on seeing if we want to eliminate any type of bus, redundancy on the routes. So for now, we're going to keep everything as is, evaluate how the riders are using the system, and see where it looks like we have redundant service that can be eliminated.
How will the city know if the route is successful? Ridership or revenue, all the different things you're using to measure success.
Well, one of the measures that we've been using is economic development, and one of the reasons why we selected the streetcar was because of the economic development potential. So we have over $800 million of public and private investment already along the line that's occurred since we, basically since we received our federal funding in 2010. I know that there's multiple hundreds of millions of dollars of projects are now going to be coming up soon, so that's going to be increasing over the $1 billion mark. That's one of the markers we have for how successful this project's going to be. Another measure is going to be the ridership. So we estimated 3,600 riders per day. We'll be able to track that and see if we're meeting those goals or if we're exceeding them over the next several months.
Shelley Ginn, project manager of the Modern Streetcar Project. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back with the roundtable.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Rivera. Join me next for Arizona Week as I sit down with a team of Tucson journalists who followed a Guatemalan woman and her young daughter to Delaware, later on Arizona Week.
Here to discuss the top news of the week, Zach Ziegler of Arizona Public Media, Dan Gibson of the Tucson Weekly, and Thelma Grimes of Tucson Local Media. Thank you all for coming in. We're going to talk about the streetcar a little bit more. Zach, you've been covering some of the differences between bicycles and pedestrians and how people should be acting around the streetcar, not just that it's here, but what happens next for all of us. What have you learned this week?
One of the big things you hear a lot is no passing, don't pass because, well, it's kind of a hard thing to see around. That's definitely been a major emphasis point for Sunlink at this point. Also, just reminding folks about how frequently these are going to be running. The fact that they're electric, so if you've ever been in a parking lot and had a Prius coming towards you, you don't exactly hear them because they're electric at that point. So they've been talking about that as a major factor. You won't necessarily hear it coming, and also that cyclists maybe need to think twice about their routes. If you're riding along the track, you can real easily slip in there with the tire. Actually, I don't know if you remember when we were out covering the story, we actually saw a cyclist right around 4th Avenue and 9th Street slide into one of the tracks. Luckily, he didn't fall down and he caught himself, but it was kind of a nice little visualization of, oh, so that's what they've been talking about this whole week.
And just to follow up, you said everybody is supposed to stop when a streetcar is stopped. That means bikes, drivers, like a school bus, essentially.
Yeah. You're not supposed to pass it. You just stay behind it and don't try and go around it unless there's someone there kind of trying to help you around. As we saw, it looked like they might have been having some sort of problem actually right out in front of the building here. So in that instance, yeah, you can pass, but you're supposed to stay behind and wait for the streetcar.
There was a lot of issues with not only the bicyclists, but also with parking. Do they think they did enough, I guess, pre-gaming, so to speak, to educate the public on where to park, how to behave downtown now? Do they think they got all those kinks worked out now that it's going live and more are going to be on the roads?
They seem to think so. They talked a lot about the fact that, hey, this is a major problem. You need to get behind these lines, otherwise you're blocking the streetcar, and we will tow your car is something they were completely unwavering on. We know exactly which tow company we're calling, and they know how quick they need to get there.
Have they already started any towing at this time just to really set that tone? Or
I haven't heard of any cases yet, but who knows? I've been avoiding the madhouse so far today and not going down there. I've seen the streetcars riding past here, and they are packed to the gills.
Absolutely.
So
on Congress and 4th, you mentioned that they were saying that possibly bicyclists should find other routes. I mean, on Congress and 4th, how much space is there between cars parked on the street and the streetcar itself? Did you notice that when riding?
Yeah, on Congress and 4th, I believe that was one of the tighter spots along the route. And once again, it's one of those things, maybe rethink your route. I know, considering these things during the day will be running every 10 minutes. If I'm driving along that route even, I'm rethinking my route. So bicyclists, maybe even pedestrians, kind of think about that as a factor.
One of the things at Congress and 4th is that if you're on Congress, the tracks are actually in the left lane. So I think it becomes more of an issue for bicyclists trying to turn left unless you're making it through that entire intersection, which has tracks going kind of crosswise in different directions because of the way it's configured.
And that is part of why they have the green box system now, if you notice at the front, especially along where the streetcar is. There's a green box at each intersection. Well, cars are supposed to stop behind the green box. Bicycles can get in the front that way. It makes it easier for them to turn, for them to be predictable and not have to worry about any sort of bad interaction between the car and the bicycle, and now the streetcar and the bicycle.
Thelma, we heard in the package earlier that this streetcar was an economic development tool, or has been working in economic development. What were you hearing in Inside Tucson Business reporting from the businesses along the route? I remember that there was some opposition, especially during construction along 4th Avenue, because there was an impact. But now it seems like businesses are behind it. Is that an accurate observation?
Initially, when those fences went up, the businesses did lose sales. They did go downhill, and they did struggle. I mean, the city of Tucson even brought in a company to help counsel businesses on how to survive during construction and what to do during that time. So then now you go down there and fences are down, the buses are running, people are writing on them today. And you've got a lot of optimism downtown. You've got some businesses that have been there 15 or more years saying that, they struggled during construction, but now they think it's going to pick back up. You have others saying they were optimistic all the way through, and they think this is going to be helpful. Then you also have your business fronts downtown where it says coming soon, Bianco's Pizza. You have hair salons, which we were talking about earlier. And so there are some signs that businesses do think this is a good thing, and they are optimistic about what the future brings.
And Dan, we heard Shelley Ginn say that the estimated ridership is about 3,600 rides per day. That's about 1,800 round trips per day. Is that a realistic estimate of success for the streetcar?
It seems optimistic, and you can sort of see the language being parsed there. We're going to meet or exceed these goals, and I think everyone's hoping that, but it's hard to see where a lot of those riders are going to come from without sort of just a wild influx of U of A students or U of A faculty getting on board. There are places to go, and that's a nice thing, but it's just hard to see exactly where those riders are going to come from Monday through Friday. But you already see the narrative sort of being shaped a little bit. It's that, Steve Farley is saying these sort of things, it's like, we've already won here. From before the streetcar starts, we're successful because these businesses are coming and because there's businesses that are located along the route that wouldn't have been there to begin with. And you do hear that. Derek Widmark of Diablo Burger said that he wouldn't have moved in at all without the streetcar being there. And Chris Bianco wouldn't have moved Pizzeria Bianco in without Derek. And then all the places up and down the street. You see that these things are happening, but it's hard to imagine that the fairs are going to be the space where this works. It's just going to be that there is more there to Tucson.
Okay. And then I also want to answer a question we got in our Twitter account. One of our Twitter followers asked how the city came up with some of the hours and specifically why the streetcar is running in 30-minute increments on those Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights when the bars are really busy. We asked the city that question, and they told us that was based on, initially, if we all recall, the city wasn't even going to have any service that late at night. The city council said, no, we need to run those buses, the streetcar that late, and it was basically a budget decision to run them every 30 minutes. It would have cost more to run them more frequently. So we just wanted to put that out there for that Twitter follower. Anybody else want to ask questions on Twitter? We can answer those in future weeks. Let's move on to another big story of the week, and that was the execution that ended up making national news. Dan, it took more than 2 hours for the Arizona inmate who was convicted of murdering 2 people in Tucson more than 20 years ago to die by lethal injection. Are we poised to talk about changes in method after this happens in Arizona?
You would think. Arizona is one of the states where you have a lot of protection for the state in itself and how they disclose it. You really don't have to tell what the drugs that are being used or a lot about the methodology. But this is it's a person's life, which is really difficult, and it's the people who suffered from the crime itself. But it's a fiasco. And then you have the governor saying that the person wasn't suffering, and it's a difficult thing to say. The Arizona Republic reporters that were there were pretty universal in saying this person was alive, and this was to the point where his lawyers were calling for a stay of the execution. The process of killing somebody in any state is a challenge because nobody wants to be known as the one supplying the drugs. Nobody wants to be a part of this of the process itself. And this happened in several states in recent memory. It feels like, in some sense, it does bring in a conversation about the death penalty in general. But in Arizona, where an appeals court said that the firing squad is legitimate still, it doesn't seem that Arizona is exactly the place where that conversation might happen. It seems like Arizona's failure to do this properly now might be more part of a discussion elsewhere than here.
With the firing squad still an option, didn't that feel a little facetious? Talking about the guillotine and hanging and the firing squad as being available options, and if you've ever talked to the Chief Justice there, he has a bit of a flair for the dramatic at times.
It seems that way, and I think Arizona certainly has this space where there are people who have an investment at being the Wild West still, right? And when we posted, we were talking about the execution on Facebook, and there were a number of people who say, bring back the guillotine, this is how we should do it, these are all humane things. It's hard to tell where people are joking, at least for me personally. It's still someone's life, and it's just it's such an odd space to be discussing it. The challenge is one, are we being fair to these people in the process? Are these people actually guilty? But also, how are we going to pull this thing off? it seems like something has to change, though.
I know the governor called for, an investigation into what happened with it all. How much energy or time are they going to put into this, and are there any pending executions that are going to be put on hold as they try to sort it out? Is there any discussion on that yet?
There hasn't been as far as I've seen, no one has said like, hey, listen, we need to actually stop this to figure it out. There's a space before another execution is scheduled, so there's at least some time to talk about it. But Arizona has a lot of lack of disclosure on what this happened, so you won't really probably even see a public conversation or public report, because that would disclose where the drugs came from, how they were acquired, and no one wants to say that. Arizona is one of 20 states that has really distinct laws in that manner.
And just some background, this has come up in several states mainly because they've had to change the drugs because of the company that pulled out a while back, correct?
Right. Yeah, so no American company really wants to make these things, or at least be known as the company that makes them, for obvious reasons. They want to be in the business of healing people and making people better, not of executing criminals. So some of these states have had to go to, Arizona at one point was discussing bringing in these drugs from out of the country, or going to formularies and having them made in this. So no one knows what this drug was, and there's not a lot of effort to say why it didn't work. There's the Department of Corrections doesn't have a lot of incentive to say what went wrong, really, just that they're going to fix it.
We'll pivot to another topic, medical marijuana. Zach, this week, the latest in this saga of a University of Arizona researcher who was fired. This week, she said she would appeal her firing. This is the woman who planned to study the impact of medical marijuana on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. She's appealing her firing, and then also that raised the question of where does the money go that was going to fund her research? Do we have an answer to that yet?
So far, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, the group that was backing Dr. Sue Sisley, has said wherever she goes, that's where they go. However, their funding wasn't a whole lot. It was just under $1 million. They hadn't provided a whole lot of that, actually. Most of it was just pledged funds. The university had put in a fair amount of work into this because NIDA, the National Institute for Drug, or sorry, let me get that
here.
back. Yes, the government agency that basically would be providing medical marijuana to any study. They have some very specific precautions that have to be taken as far as where this product can be kept. And the university, I believe, had gone forward on working on some of that stuff. At least when I had talked to Dr. Sisley in the early stages of this, she said that was one of their holdups, and they were making progress. So that becomes an issue. How much of the funding was from the university? How much was actually being provided from MAPS?
And it sounds like the University of Arizona is arguing that the money should stay at the school where it was approved, which is the University of Arizona. Dan, what about the politics behind this situation?
That's where it gets sticky. I mean, Arizona is going to have a hard time wrestling. We've already had a hard time wrestling with the medical marijuana issue. I mean, it's a voter-approved thing, but the legislature, by and large, a very conservative group of people, are uncomfortable with the politics of how do we actually do this stuff. And one of the things is that, Senate President Andy Biggs was, the conversation is that he had possibly intervened because he opposed Dr. Sisley's politics or leaned on the university. And then you would just have a question about the space of the modern American university. What is the business? Are there going to be people that are dissuaded from giving money to the university because of this research? It's a complicated space, and it's not going to get easier, just as, when you have states like Colorado and Washington looking at decriminalization or legalization, that seems like Arizona is on that track. And so it's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations. I think this is just maybe the first of a number of them.
I think you've also had a few lawmakers come out and say recently that they know that in 2016 it's likely to be on the ballot, just like Colorado and Washington, and it's likely to become, legal on a broader ban. So I think on some level the resistance is interesting to watch because it does appear we're on that track to keep going. And on the business side, these dispensaries may have the upfront costs, but in the end they're profiting and they are going forward. So, and PTSD has been added, and so I think it's interesting to watch how the next 2 years are going to play out.
It will be sort of fascinating because you do see the industry popping up here, and I think that's it. When it becomes, you see dispensaries on corners and you don't hear the sort of like disaster stories of what's going to happen, that these businesses are operating well. You haven't really seen crime pop up to them to any significant degree, and the process seems to be working. You can get a card, you have to go through this process, it's very safeguarded. And that's generally what has happened to these other states. That was the path with Colorado, that was the path with Washington, and people just become more eased to it. Basically every poll says that, Arizonans are okay with some sort of decriminalization or legalization, but you do have a legislature that's going to probably go into that kicking and screaming.
On another health note, this week, Zach, the Brookings Institution issued a report about how many jobs there are in healthcare in the country and in Arizona that rely on college education or not college educated employees. Can you summarize that report for us on the Arizona side?
Yeah, the Brookings Institution found that about 20,000 Tucsonans are working in some form of healthcare with less than a bachelor's degree. That's a pretty good chunk of our workforce, about 5% total of the workforce, and 7% of the people who have less than a bachelor's degree are holding one of these types of jobs, or something along the lines of a medical assistant, an emergency medical technician, jobs like that where, say, some kind of specialized training, an associate's degree, or even just on-the-job training is enough to handle that. That's kind of a big deal for Tucson, because you heard a lot from Tucson Regional Economic Opportunities in their blueprint talking about the role of healthcare in Tucson's future and how these jobs could be there. And so it was interesting to see kind of a little more of a number crunching end of that, talking about, well, the average salary from these jobs is about $31,000 a year. Is that necessarily what Trio was talking about as a higher paying job? And certainly it's higher than some jobs you can see in this in that vein, but maybe not others.
And Thelma, you have covered this topic of high-skilled jobs and inside Tucson business. And I remember one of your findings was that there are not enough workers in the higher-skilled jobs. So what does this tell us when we see that there are 50% of the healthcare workers in Arizona are less than college educated?
Right, and a lot of that is that, they're looking at the high-skilled jobs here in Tucson, science, engineering, healthcare. And right now there's a deficit of 2,000 to 500 jobs. Some of those are in the healthcare industry. So you don't wonder, is this they're hiring what they can hire and filling the positions they need to? And then Arizona's big on the construction industry, which means lower paying jobs. So the balance is really not there right now.
And you've covered that there are efforts out there. Zach mentioned Tucson Regional Economic Opportunities to attract those higher skilled jobs, higher paying jobs, and higher education necessary jobs. When will we start to see return on those efforts?
Well, like Trio pointed out, to do that, you have to start looking at the region as a whole. Your roads, your transportation system, all of the the amenities of your community. They go into, can you attract those high-paying jobs? To fill those high-paying jobs with people. They want to come here. You have to have the amenities to bring them here. The graduates from U of A, you have to have the high-paying jobs to keep them here. And so there's kind of a balance of, you have to meet some other criteria to meet the job goals and that Trio set.
And Dan, will try to end off on politics again. Sure. In the Congressional District 2 race, last week we talked about the fundraising numbers. This week, what we've been seeing in our email accounts from the parties are each of the parties attacking each other on sort of having party money. So the Republicans are saying that Democratic incumbent Ron Barber is getting money from Nancy Pelosi and from the DCCC. And then at the same time, the Democrats are saying that Republican challenger Martha McSally is getting money from John Boehner and from the Koch brothers. Does that matter to a regular voter?
I don't think it does. I mean, I think in general, people would prefer to not have the sort of really nasty ads that come out that can often be funded by the Republican Party or associates of the Republican Party, that or the Democratic Party. Conversely, that you see this really very challenging sort of dark conversations about people's character, about what they mean, that the candidates themselves are prohibited from doing. But I think we're beyond that. It's almost like that's not really an argument in 2014. These races are going to be funded because they matter to the entire country. It is still about constituent services and about the interaction between a representative and the people they represent. But when you have people in Washington around the country who want to see the House be in one hand or the other, it's going to be a part of a national conversation always. There are no purely local races anymore.
Those of us who are covering the campaigns, we are seeing those emails in our inboxes. I asked if the regular person, if it matters to them, do you think they're even aware of it?
I don't know that they are. I mean, this seems like something that's just sort of, at least in the sense of like in our room, like we probably get those emails. I get 10 or 12 of them a day, back and forth about one thing or another. And I don't know that the regular person notices it. They're just trying to make a good decision.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us this week. That's our program. For more of this week's news, including stories from NPR 89.1, go to our website. Now, Arizona Week takes a look at the latest news on the thousands of unaccompanied minors from Central America, including the perception of border security.